How your routine affects your dog's anxiety. Science explained. Your dog has been reading your schedule every single day, long before you ever picked up a leash. And there's a good chance you've never realized just how closely they're tracking it. Most people think dog anxiety comes from bad experiences, poor training, or a nervous personality. Science suggests something far more ordinary is often behind it, something that has nothing to do with trauma and everything to do with time. By the end of this, you may never look at your morning coffee routine the same way again. Why this matters more than you think. Dogs don't experience time the way we do. They can't check a clock or glance at a calendar. Instead, they build their entire sense of safety around pattern. When your day follows a rhythm, wake up, walk, breakfast, work, dinner, bed, your dog isn't just living alongside that rhythm. They're using it as a map for what happens next, and more importantly, whether they're safe. This is where most owners get it wrong. When a dog paces before you leave, or whines when the routine shifts, many people assume it's about separation itself. The dog simply doesn't want to be alone. But researchers who study canine stress have found that unpredictability, not solitude, is often the bigger trigger. A dog left alone in a consistent, expected way tends to cope far better than a dog whose entire day is a guessing game. That distinction changes everything about how we think about canine anxiety. It's not just my dog hates when I leave. It's my dog doesn't know what's coming next, and that uncertainty is doing more damage than the actual separation. To understand why routine matters so much, it helps to look at how dogs evolved. Domestic dogs descend from populations of wolves that thrived by anticipating patterns, the movement of prey, the behavior of their pack, the rhythm of the seasons. Animals that could predict their environment survived. Animals that couldn't stay in a constant state of alert. That evolutionary wiring didn't disappear when dogs moved into our homes. It simply changed targets. Instead of tracking prey movement, your dog now tracks you, your footsteps, your keys, the sound of your alarm, even subtle shifts in your mood. Researchers studying canine cognition have found dogs are remarkably skilled at picking up on human cues, sometimes responding to signals we don't even realize we're giving off. Here's where it gets more interesting. Chronic unpredictability doesn't just create momentary stress. It can produce a baseline state of vigilance. In several studies on canine physiology, dogs living in inconsistent or chaotic environments have shown elevated stress hormone levels compared to dogs in stable routines. One well-known area of research even found that dogs' long-term stress hormone patterns can mirror their owners, suggesting that an anxious, erratic household rhythm doesn't just confuse a dog, it can physically stress them over time. But that's only part of the story. Because predictability isn't just about physical events like walks and meal times. It's also about emotional consistency, and that's where things get even more revealing. What your dog is really communicating. When a dog seems anxious around a broken routine, they're not being dramatic, and they're not acting out. They're communicating a very specific message. I don't know what happens next, and I don't know if I'm safe. This shows up differently depending on the dog and the situation. A dog who paces by the door isn't necessarily saying, "Don't leave me." They may be saying, "I can't predict when you're coming back, and that gap feels unsafe." A dog who becomes clingy right before you leave for work isn't manipulating you. They're often responding to subtle pre-departure cues like putting on shoes or grabbing keys that their brain has linked to an unpredictable absence. Even more telling, some dogs show anxiety not during chaotic periods but right after them, once things go quiet. Researchers have observed that stress responses in dogs can actually build during a period of unpredictability and only visibly surface once the excitement or disruption ends. This is why a dog might seem fine during a hectic holiday weekend, then suddenly seem unsettled the following Tuesday when the house goes quiet again. The nervous system is still catching up. We'll come back to why that delayed reaction matters, because it explains a pattern many owners completely misread. Common myths about dog anxiety. Myth: my dog is just being dramatic. Reality: behaviors like pacing, whining, or destructive chewing are communication, not performance. Dogs don't stage behaviors for an audience the way humans might. These are physiological stress responses. Myth: my dog feels guilty when I come home to a mess. Reality: what looks like guilt, including lowered ears, avoiding eye contact, and a slinking posture, is very likely appeasement behavior in response to your tone of voice or body language, not an admission of wrongdoing. Studies designed to test this have found dogs display these guilty behaviors even when they hadn't done anything wrong, simply because their owner acted upset. Myth: routine anxiety means my dog is broken or overly sensitive. Reality: every dog, regardless of temperament, relies on pattern recognition to feel secure. Some dogs are simply more sensitive to disruption than others. That's a difference in threshold, not a flaw. Myth: dominance or bad training explains anxious behavior. Reality: this outdated framework has been largely abandoned by modern behavioral science. Most anxiety-driven behaviors trace back to unpredictability, past experience, or unmet needs, not a struggle for control. Where evidence is genuinely mixed is in how much individual dogs are affected by minor schedule changes versus major ones. Some dogs barely notice a shifted mealtime, others seem deeply unsettled by it. Researchers still don't fully understand why sensitivity varies so much between individual dogs, even within the same breed. What you should actually do. The goal isn't to build a rigid, unbreakable schedule that's neither realistic nor necessary. The goal is to build predictable enough patterns that your dog can reliably anticipate. Watch for anticipatory cues. If your dog starts pacing the moment you pick up your keys, that's valuable information. It tells you exactly which signal is triggering their stress response, which means you can work on decoupling that cue from anxiety. For example, picking up your keys randomly throughout the day without leaving, so the action stops predicting departure. Create a loose but consistent rhythm. Dogs don't need exact times. They need a reliable sequence. Waking, eating, walking, and quiet time happening in a similar order each day gives your dog a mental structure to rely on, even if the clock times shift slightly. Avoid emotional whiplash. A chaotic morning followed by a rushed, anxious goodbye teaches your dog that departures feel unstable. A calm, low-key exit and an equally low-key return signals that comings and goings are ordinary, not emotional events. Introduce small, controlled unpredictability. Counterintuitively, dogs who experience some manageable variation tend to adapt better than dogs kept in an ultra-rigid bubble. Occasionally varying walk routes or feeding order in low-stakes ways can build resilience rather than fragility. Don't punish anxious behavior. Scolding a dog for pacing or whining doesn't address the uncertainty causing it. It often adds a new layer of unpredictability on top of the old one, since now your dog also can't predict your reaction. None of this is about fixing your dog. It's about communicating more clearly, so your dog doesn't have to guess as much. Surprising facts and real-world patterns. Dogs' sense of time is often more sophisticated than people assume. Behavioral researchers have found dogs can distinguish between different durations of owner absence, reacting differently to a short gap versus a long one, suggesting they're not just reacting to your absence, but tracking roughly how long it's lasted. There's also a striking parallel in the wolf world. Wolf packs rely heavily on ritualized, repeated behaviors, coordinated hunting patterns, consistent social routines to reduce internal conflict and stress within the group. Some researchers see the domestic dog's love of routine as an echo of this ancestral need for group predictability, just repurposed for a household of humans instead of a pack of wolves. Perhaps the most surprising finding is the stress mirroring research mentioned earlier. It's not just that inconsistent routines confuse dogs. Living with a chronically stressed or unpredictable owner appears to elevate a dog's own long-term stress physiology. Your dog isn't only responding to the schedule. They're responding to you, your tone, your energy, your own consistency or lack of it. That reframes the entire topic. Anxiety around routine disruption isn't a training problem to be solved with commands. It's a relationship problem, solved by becoming a more predictable, readable presence in your dog's daily life. The final takeaway: your dog isn't asking for a perfect schedule. They're asking for a readable one, a life where cause and effect make sense, where departures aren't emergencies, and where the rhythm of the day tells them again and again that they're safe. The behaviors we often label as clinginess, drama, or stubbornness are, more often than not, a dog trying to make sense of a world they can't fully control. And the more consistent, calm, and communicative we become, the less that world has to feel unpredictable to them. The more we understand what our dogs are really responding to, the less mysterious their behavior becomes, and the more we realize that the steadiest thing we can offer them isn't a perfect routine. It's a predictable us.